Next, we're going to create some internal threads. The first step into 3D sketching with a helix and putting a profile connected to that helix that's swept. So first thing we do is do an extrude boss base in the top plane and create the hex shape for my nut. We can go in here and put in horizontal for that top piece, and dimension from flat to flat is 1.125. Then we can go ahead and extrude that. It is 0.525 in height. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create two different pieces of geometry and then join them. So I'm going to create another extrude boss base off the bottom face and a circle that goes out to the outer corner, and flip it the other way, and again 525, but I'm not going to merge the two. I'm going to turn off merge result, so they're two different pieces of geometry. They are two different solid bodies, the hex and the cylinder. Then we can go up to insert, feature, combine, and we'll combine these two in a common intersection, the two different bodies into a common intersection. Oh wait, I'm sorry, before we do that, let's go ahead and put in a fillet. So we can put a fillet on the top edge, bottom edge at 0.1 on the cylinder. Then we can go use the insert, features, combine, and I combine in the common intersection the two different solid bodies and end up with my nut. I can go ahead and extrude cut a hole in here. So we go ahead and select the center point and dimension it. The inside hole is 0.65, and that's the minor diameter that's going to get cut all the way through. Then we can work on doing our threads. So that builds the nut, and then now the point of creating the internal threads. The internal threads are going to take a helix, but before you can create a helix you need to have a circle. So we're going to create a sketch on the bottom face. I'm going to take that outer circle and convert it in, and that's the circle that's needed to create the helix. We'll get out of that sketch. That's one sketched circle at the bottom to help us generate the helix. Then you can go insert, curve, helix. The helix needs a circle to generate. You can reverse the direction. We can set it to height and pitch. We can say our height is 0.525 and our pitch, according to the handout, is 0.105. So that creates our helix off the circle that we had created. The start angle, pay attention to that. It's also where the helix starts, or what angle the helix starts at, and clockwise or counterclockwise. So the helix is one part of creating the threads. The other part is to create the profile. In order to create the profile, we need to be perpendicular to that helix. So we're going to go back to features, plane. We're going to select the helix itself and then the endpoint, and that's going to put a plane right on the endpoint of the helix. That plane is where we'll create our profile. So sketch, sketch, this profile. We'll look straight at it, and then create our profile. The profile is something that you're going to create away from So it's going to create .094. We're going to create the shape of the profile, connecting the midpoint to the endpoint, dimensioning the angle, and then putting in the fillet at, I think it's 0.01. Okay. Now this is fully constrained, it's just not connected to any existing geometry. And what we need to do to get that to connect to the existing geometry is to use what's called a pierce point. So you would select the helix, control key, select the endpoint you want to connect to it, and then pierce point will show up. Make pierce point and it'll connect that sketch to the endpoint of the path. The pierce point is where the sketch goes through the plane. So now that I have a path and a profile, I can then do my sweep cut. I'll do a sweep cut. The profile, is the profile we selected. The path is the helix, and it should cut all the way through. Say OK. It may ask me which bodies. Say selected bodies, say the original body, and say OK. And that should give us our threads through the nut. I challenge you to see if you can't have the threads extend beyond. So go above, say, 5 thousandths and down to 5 thousandths, so that the threads go through all the way through. They stay stopped. They don't go all the way through because the helix stops. If you can have the helix go a little farther on each side, then the threads will go through the nut.